Hello, everybody. This is Randy Jones with eThink Education. I appreciate you joining us today for navigating the learning content landscape with artificial intelligence. Really excited to be joined by Ed Cass today. We still have some folks trickling in, so I'm going to go ahead and stall for a bit, but I do want you to get used to the GoToWebinar control panel. There is a questions pane in the GoToWebinar control panel. If you could find that, our best sessions always are our most interactive sessions. So if you could find that questions pane, tell us where you're calling in from. There's a ton of really great conferences over the next 5 weeks. If you'll be at any of those, we've got Learning 2018, the Mazes Conference, we've got DevLearn. What else do we have? We have a couple of conferences up in Toronto. We have Institute for Performance Learning and Online Learning 2018. If you'll be at any of those sessions, we'd love to catch up with you, perhaps grab a coffee. But if you could, just get used to that questions pane in the GoToWebinar control panel as we have the rest of the audience trickling in. Looks like we have people from all over North America logging in here. California, Miami, Pennsylvania, folks from the Caribbean. Excellent. I appreciate everybody joining us today. But about another 30 seconds. I want to respect everybody's time, and then we'll jump right in. All right, let's jump in here. Again, my name is Randy Jones. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at eThink Education. Really excited to be joined by Becky Willis, who's the Vice President of Enterprise Engagement at EdCast, and our co-founder and CEO, Brian Carlson. I really appreciate everybody's effort in getting this session together. It's a pretty exciting partnership that we've launched here with eThink and EdCast. The flow of the conversation today, I'd like to tell the audience a little bit about who we are at eThink, what we provide. I think that'll set the stage well for the conversation that we want to have here today. Then we'll jump into the evolution, really, of what we're seeing in the e-learning ecosystem. And then we'll pass the controls over to Becky, who will be giving us a presentation on the functionality of EdCast. Okay, here at eThink, here's our mission statement. It's actually about 11 months ago to the day, actually, that we reformulated our mission statement to make sure it met our current needs. We had a company retreat out at DevLearn in Las Vegas, and here's what we came up with. We really try to differentiate ourselves from the LMS market, specifically with ensuring customer success. Our team truly does have the best customer support in the LMS industry, and that's really what we focus on: happy clients and making sure that the training programs that they're providing are meeting the needs of their users. We are the largest Moodle partner in North America. We're also a Platinum Totara partner. Totara, the Platinum version, is actually the highest possible ranking with Totara. And what we do is we provide a fully managed LMS solution, which essentially means we become the extension of our client's team responsible for their LMS. A to Z, we provide the hosting, the discovery phase, and the implementation. During that phase, we really try to figure out what the true need set is for each and every client. We do all the integrations, whether it's tying in with EdCast or any of the third-party solutions, or CRM, ERP, HRIS, or whatever it may be. And we provide quite a consulting. We'll talk a bit today about what the e-learning ecosystem it can be daunting. system in the world. There's over 130 million registered learners on Moodle. One thing that's most important here is that it's best to be deployed by experts. I saw on the registration list, we do have some folks here on host Moodle. How difficult? Good for you. It's not an easy chore. It's not a chore that the typical IT team can just pick up and run with. You truly need Moodle experts. There's a famous saying in the Moodle community that Moodle is free like a puppy, simply meaning it needs experts to train the puppy to act and behave appropriately. And that's what we do with Moodle. We configure the solution to meet really unique needs for each of the organizations that we work with. Totara is another learning management system that's been designed on top of Moodle specifically for the workplace. So they took the Moodle code, added additional functionality designed to meet the needs of corporate learning. There's over 1,400 organizations, 10 million users on Totara. And it's a tool that we find maybe 30 to 40% of our corporate clients, it's the better tool than Moodle, although Moodle is still really the dominant tool that we provide. Our solutions team will take a look, again, at the unique needs of each of our prospects and clients and help them decide which of those two tools is going to be a best fit. Here's a quick list of some of the organizations that we work with. Names you recognize: US Peace Corps, the Training Wing for the United Nations, Liberty Mutual, Guaranteed Rate. Vistaprint is actually one of our newer Totara clients who's going to be presenting with us here at DevLearn. Excited to have them flying in into Las Vegas with us, the YMCA. So that's a quick overview of who we are and what we do. And from here, I'm going to pass the microphone over to our co-founder and CEO, Brian Carlson, to talk a little bit about how we see the e-learning ecosystem evolving.
Thanks so much, Randy. I think today is a pretty exciting day with Becky being here from EdCast. We're going to talk a little bit about the e-learning ecosystem and why partnerships like the one here with eThink and EdCast make so much sense, and are more importantly, I think they really illustrate where the market is going and how different it is from where it was just a couple of years ago. We talk a lot about the old model. I think most of us understand, Randy did a great job there of really illustrating the differences about open source. We do not own the code. We don't own the database. It's owned by the community. So we are not creating sort of a gatekeeper model where we control proprietary functionality and we sell a license fee. And if you're not happy, you have to stay with us. You can actually take your database and you can move to someone else who might be able to do it differently or better. Interestingly enough, we're finding that the opposite is true. Those people that have been with other providers that have maybe not had the best experience, or maybe have self-hosted and realized that they're not able to do that as they scale the organization and the use of the system, end up moving over to us. We've actually never lost a client the other way, but we have more than 150 over the last 3 years that have just moved over from those other situations to us. It's a very unique model to not have that vendor lock. What we're finding is that the old way of doing things, where you had a closed source solution, where one company and only one company could provide you that support, also led them to creating sort of a gatekeeper model where they might only have one analytics product that you could use, and it was proprietary, or one virtual classroom product. And they wouldn't, and purposely, they would not allow others to easily integrate in. That is not the way that the market is evolving right now. What we're finding is clients want the ability to go with a best-of-breed ecosystem. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means, so that we set up Becky here to really talk about one aspect of that, the LXP with EdCast, that is quite frankly one of the more interesting technologies to come in to the e-learning ecosystem in a while. Some of the trends that have led to this openness are these new standards that obviously most of us on today's call have seen, the content standards of SCORM, and understand that you can use SCORM content in just about any LMS out there in the market. You may be less familiar with LTI, which is an interoperability standard that allows one product in the ecosystem to talk to another product in the ecosystem and do direct connections between products. I think everyone has heard of XAPI, and many of us are still probably trying to figure out where that's going to be needed in their learning environment in the future. For those of us that have not, XAPI creates a standard language that different learning products can use to report different information to a central repository called an LRS. And EdCast is also in that space right now with their product. It's something Becky may speak a little bit about. But XAPI has become so important in terms of, again, creating this ability for products to all speak the same language. And that's done some very interesting things that we've noticed in the market, and we're seeing at all the conferences that we go to, which is this concept of the e-learning ecosystem is expanding rapidly. There are, I'll show you this here in a second, there are many categories. This is just a small sampling of what that honeycomb diagram might look like with different components of the e-learning ecosystem. Now, what these are different aspects of software that you may need in what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish with your learning environment, with your platform, your ecosystem, if you will. And there are many, as you know, because technically the number is over 700 learning management systems out there. There are many different ERPs. There are many different proctoring solutions. There are many different e-commerce solutions, LRS solutions, as we see over there on the far left, micro-learning solutions. And what's interesting is each of these categories has new players that are coming into it all the time. And what we're finding is new categories are also coming in to the market all the time. If we go to this next one, I will illustrate where LXP is starting to fit in, which will certainly lead up to what Becky is going to be talking about with the impressive work that EdCast is doing for their clients. LXP is a new category, and it's a very disruptive category in the sense that it's an aggregation tool that is allowing an experience of the learning management system is still connected to it. There's still much content that you're going to want to create manually and have housed in a learning management system, but there's an absolute revolution going on right now when it comes to the types of content that are available in other areas that are more canned content. Every corporation, every nonprofit that we work with has custom content that they need to put in the LMS. But they also want to take advantage of things like LinkedIn's content through Lynda, Pluralsight content, all of these incredible new repositories of canned content that are offered at a very low price point. But the question is, how do I sort out which of these pieces of content I want my learners to go to? And that's where the LXP comes in. It acts as that front door to get your users an experience, thus the name Learning Experience platform, and send them to the right place, which might be the LMS, it might be other content, and it does a lot of things as well with storing data as to what your users are using and what they're looking at, and making recommendations for other things that Becky will get into here. Now, this is fascinating. This is a category that quite frankly did not exist several years ago, and it's now become very disruptive. And our role here at eThink is to advise our clients. We're very agnostic on what the best of breed solution is in each of these categories. When you think about e-commerce, for example, you don't really want to go out and have to decipher. I'm sure we've all walked around the conferences at DevLearn or ATD and seen the hundreds of vendors across many rows and wondered, which of these do I need? What we do is we found what products integrate well in the ecosystem to an open source platform like Moodle or Totara, and present multiple options for our clients. Make recommendations. These are the three solutions you should be looking at for e-commerce. Would you like us to make a connection to that individual over there and talk to them? And then additionally, set the integrations up for our clients. Because Moodle is an open source platform, all of these vendors can get direct access to the code and build very, very detailed and in-depth integrations that you probably don't see the likes of in many of the closed source solutions. And certainly a larger client base than you do with some of the other solutions that are out there that maybe. At this stage, I want to introduce Becky, but I also want to do a quick. You want to do a quick poll, Randy, or we'll go ahead and skip that here for the interest of time. I want to turn it over to Becky at this stage. I think the big question we're all asking ourselves all the time is, what's next? Us as a vendor here at eThink, we've always tried to stay cutting edge, advising clients of what is going to be next in this breed e-learning ecosystem, how to about bringing in the best solution and keeping our clients up to date. And I couldn't be more delighted to introduce Becky. Becky is an absolute expert on this, and she's going to walk us through what EdCast has been doing and talking a little bit more about how that's integrated in to the LMS. So with that, Becky, we're so happy to have you on the line with us today. We'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Brian. I'm happy to be with you all, and we're going to get to the exciting part of artificial intelligence. We're going to lead into it for you to explain how AI fits into all of this. So first of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about, for those of us that are in learning and have been in learning, Randy used and Brian used both the words disruptive and revolution. So I prefer to think about this as what's happening in learning today is disruptive for those of us who are in the learning industry, but it's a revolution for the learners. So one of my favorite people in the world, Josh Person, talks about bringing learning to where the employees are, and it's a type of learning. Just trying to set a little focus there and set it up so that we're talking about the democratization of learning. And one of the ways that this has become possible is with the use of artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, ML. So forgive me if I fall into that AI and ML type of discussion. Next slide, please, Randy. This slide is just a little bit about how some of us feel, both as learners and also as learning experts and learning people within our company. Everything is happening so fast. There's lots of changes. We get a ton of questions. People ask, a learning experience platform, how does AI work? Why do I care about that? What happens to my LMS? How does this all work? And for the learner, I now have a plethora of places, I love that word, plethora, of places that I can go to get information, to get results, to get things, but I am now drowning in a sea of content. So we at EdCast try to address both of those issues. Let's talk a little bit in the next slide about what the expectations are that learners have today. We all use, when we go home, we use Spotify, we use Apple Music, iTunes, we buy stuff on Amazon, and we don't necessarily pay attention to the fact that behind the scenes for all of these consumer products, that they aggregate content, they aggregate stuff, your music, they aggregate movies, they curate the best of breed, they find the best stuff that's out there, and then they personalize it using AI and ML. They personalize it in the back end to be able to deliver to you the best and of breed, the best content and all of that. So all of these consumer applications use AI, they use machine learning, and they let you work anytime, anywhere. This is the way it works on the consumer side. So in the next slide, we're going to see EdCast applies that concept of anytime, anywhere, the concept of aggregation, curation, and personalization to learning. We take all of these different places that you can get learning from, everywhere that it comes from. It comes from all the LMSs, and I've been a bad person. I didn't put Moodle and Totara on here. Guys, please forgive me. But you get content from all these places, and you try to figure out, as Brian said, what are you going to subscribe to? What are you going to get? We can pull content from all those areas, and we can bring it to the learner in a very personalized way, in a way that they expect to see it in the world today. So moving on to the next slide, as we said, people feel like they're sort of drowning. It's not that there's a shortage of content, there's just too much of it. So how do you address that? How do you address the fact that people are used to having content pushed to them from their LMS? They're used to going to classes and allocating specific time. And what we really want people to do is to have a culture of learning. We want them to do continuous learning, all of those great, new, exciting, revolutionary ideas that people have wanted to do. That's what we want. So next one, please, Randy. What we try to do today and what we do accomplish at our customers today with EdCast is we act as the front door to learning. How people learn today is really quite different. What their expectations are, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, are quite different in the way that they want to do things. They are quite accustomed to having artificial intelligence lead to them and give them personalized content. They want stuff that's aggregated. They want microlearning, and not that microlearning is going to answer every question. We have lots of discussion in the learning community today is, can you actually build a skill with microlearning? Well, sure, you can do it with a combination of blended learning. You can do it with a combination of blended learning that comes from the LMS, learning that comes from subscription content like LinkedIn Learning, or subscription content like Go1, which is one of the real exciting content providers that exist out there today. You can get content from Harvard Business Review or from Harvard Managed Mentor. Any of those great places you can get content that are fairly traditional, more formal types of content. But you can also learn from something that's an article on a free and open web. You can learn from a TED Talk. You can learn from something that's on YouTube. Free and open web, all of the stuff on Khan Academy, all of the things that exist out there in your SharePoints, on your box, all of those different places, we become the front door and make it that user experience. As Brian said, the experience is really key, that the consumer and the learner today expects. So next slide, please. This is sort of a view of what the learning ecosystem today really involves. So you have content from your LMS. Let's say that you have a course that sits out on your LMS today. And typically what we would have done in the past is we'd have a nice 2-day class. People would learn from the fire hose and get a whole bunch of different pieces of content. They get all sorts of experiential pieces in a 2-day class. If it's well designed, they're gonna, have that nice mix of experiential in there, some cohort training, things like that, in a formal learning environment. But then they're gonna go back to their desk and get involved in their everyday work and forget most of what they learned. We all are pretty familiar with the forgetting curve. Today we have all sorts of capabilities that we can do. So we can do flip the classroom, which means that we can provide them with learning ahead of time. We can give them articles, we can give them little videos, things like that, that can present them before the class. They do some of the learning. And then in the class itself, they do more experiential exercises. They can get coaching. They can do some different things. And after the class, we can do spaced learning. We can present them with a solution that is a whole program, or what we call a pathway, that includes content from the LMS. It includes content from a SharePoint. It includes content from lots of different places so that the whole learning is spaced out and much more effective. So today we can do all of these. Oh, sorry, back one, please. That was a good guess though, Randy. We can bring in all of this different things. And one of the things, a couple of the things that I'd like you to notice in here, other than the fact that Becky put 2 of the same thing in one slide, learning in the flow of work. So I'm a salesperson. I'm in Salesforce all day long. I'm not really a salesperson, but I'm in Salesforce all day long. I don't want to go out of Salesforce to go and learn something I need. So EdCast has the capability of within Salesforce in a widget, we can present learning within Salesforce. And we can do that in ServiceNow. We can do it in Office 365. So learning in the flow of work is becoming more of a reality of how people can learn in there. We also have something called user-generated content. So we can take advantage of your subject matter experts that exist out there, those people who really understand what's going on and can truly help. And those users can create content in EdCast very simply and very easily. And on top of that, we also have what all of us in learning love, analytics. Yay. Okay, now we can go to the lovely AI slide. So how AI works for us is a combination of different things. We are mobile first of all, not that that's necessarily connected with AI, but we believe that people, again, in the flow of work, they're going to want to learn on their mobile devices. So we can present learning that is formatted correctly, of course, yeah, on a mobile device. In terms of AI, it's always running in the background. We're always looking at what it can do. And let's look at the details of what AI can do on the next slide. So from our standpoint, Randy, I don't know if my internet is just not letting, there we go, thanks. AI is doing three things in the background for us within EdCast. First of all, we do artificial intelligence for what we call insights. So on our homepage, which I'm going to show you guys in just a minute, on our homepage, we are able to machine curate some content. So we're going to go out to trusted sources that you tell us that you like, and we're going to curate content in the free and open web. We're also going to curate content on any subscription place that you have, as well as in the LMS. And we're being able to whitelist and trusted sources bring in content to what's called the daily insights. These are little pieces of content that people can see, and it helps to build that daily habit. So we're combing and we're curating off of using AI in the system. The machine learning piece of AI that we do is that everything that a user does on our system, they look at a piece of content, they like it, they share it with people, they make comments, they have any kind of social interaction, they create new content. All of that stuff that they do, the machine learning engine is tracking those capabilities and keeping track of what people are doing. It also keeps track of all the sources and what's going on. And because the machine learning reacts to all the actions that people do, we're also tracking all of that stuff. It's really amazing in terms of what we can do to react to the actions that are in there. And then we also have, in our curation capabilities, we have something called dynamic pathways. So if a user wants to curate a pathway, which is a set of content that's related to each other, let's say difficult conversations, we can type into our creation engine the word difficult conversations and ask it to generate content in that topic, and we can do up to 10 pieces of content for that. And you can move them around, you can change the flow, you can delete some, but it's going to search through your trusted areas and your trusted content to help you to make decisions and to help you to create pathways that make more sense. So it's if you went in and you searched for difficult conversations on Google, you'd probably get 400,000 different answers. And this is going to be the top 10 answers that make sense within the trusted resources that you do. The AI engine helps you with role-based decisions in there as well. So Randy, I'm going to hope that you can change over to me. I'm not quite sure how I take over a presentation here. Help me to do that.
No problem. Let me move in here. I will make you the presenter. Just shot that over to you. You should have a way to share your screen.
Got it. I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. Are you seeing
now? I see
Spark.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is Spark. It's EdCast for Edcasters, so it's what we use internally to work on our own learning that we have. And one of the cool parts about EdCast is that it allows you to customize the interface that you have. So, for example, Spark is the name that we've given to our learning program. We have some customers that just put their logo up here. We have some customers who call it some sort of learning cafe or the company name university, things like that. And we have tabs up here at the top. So we have a swim lane just below my lovely picture here. And in each one of the tabs we have swim lanes, and we can customize those to what you need as well. I am right now on the Me tab. Let me get rid of that lovely picture. I'm right now on the Me tab, and when you sign into EdCast, you tell people what your goals are going to be and what you're an expert in. This is what sets up the initial piece of what the artificial intelligence is looking for. So in this case, my learning goals are artificial intelligence, coaching and mentoring, and e-learning strategy. And I have 3 places where I am said that I am an expert. Now, one of the things that's really cool about digital learning, as far as I'm concerned, in addition to the fact that the focus of digital learning is that it's self-directed, learner in the middle type of learning. In addition to that, it allows you to set up your own goals. It allows you to have your own goals. Now, in the case of each instance for each individual company, which everybody does have their own instance of EdCast, it is completely separate from any other companies, which is unique and more secure. We also can download learning goals from your HRIS system, performance management, from the LMS, wherever you're tracking learning goals for people. And we can put in the expertise if you have that in your PM system or whatever else. But we do suggest that we in learning have to give a little bit of command and control over. So remember what my learning goals are, and we're going to switch over to the home screen. And on the home screen, let me close this little widget over here on the right so you'll see things a little bit clearer. On the home screen, you notice there are a couple of widgets. Again, these are this thing with my, again, lovely picture on it. These are things that you can be customized, and there are, as you saw, it can be widgets on the other side as well. These widgets are things that people are using to communicate. You can teach people how to use the system. If you have groups or teams of people, you can use those widgets to communicate with the teams or to set up a little conversation like a Twitter feed with the people on different groups. But the more exciting part of what we're doing here on the home screen, and it's going to be, we typically have 3 on here, but I think I have this set up as a bigger screen so you can read it. Let me see if I can make it a little bit smaller so you can see it with more than one. Let's see if that works. Nope. Okay. Well, these are today's insights, and I apologize. It's just showing it in the screen. Typically, we have 3 or 4 different boxes of content that will show up there. This is today's insights. Now, today's insights I mentioned a little bit. These are what the AI is feeding to you, what machine learning is learning from what you want. So if you think about your Netflix screen, when it makes suggestions to you on the home screen, these are the suggestions based on what it is that you want to learn. So there are a number of different ones. You can set different types of content. You can set it up so that people get fed anywhere from 3 to 9 pieces of today's insights. This is to build that habit. We also have team insights, and this can be set up to be the group, or it can be set up for people that you're following, or for content that you're really interested in. I love edX, so I have that set up. Our Chief Knowledge Officer, Patty, I'm following everything that she does. And Coach Eddie is actually our CEO in disguise. So there's lots of different content that I'm following within the team insights. Now, you can also have required content. This is content that is assigned to people. This is content that can be assigned from various different sources. Content that's assigned within the LMS can be in here, or content that's assigned within EdCast that can be in here. I am also a curator, so I have a curate button, and we have featured for content that you want to feature to people, but you don't want to make them learn it. So remember, one of the differences here between what we're showing here on EdCast and what you have in your LMS is that it's all that conglomeration of different content that has been aggregated and curated from a number of different sources. So here on my Discover tab, you can see that I have a number of different featured providers that are feeding information into what I'm seeing here in this instance of Edcast in Spark form. The Discover tab also is where you can type in if you want to search for something. And I can't talk and type. So I can search for cybersecurity, for example. And what I'm going to get is a feed of what is in the Edcast, what's on the LMS, what's on anything else that I have that's integrated into this particular version of Edcast. And it's going to pull all of that content into here, which it didn't do because I didn't spell it right. So sorry about that. Let me or it could be that my internet, there we go. So this is difficult conversations, and I can filter it just like I can in a number of different places within Edcast. We have channels, so think about channels similar to TV channels, really easy to find content within different areas, professional development. There's all sorts of content in professional development. This is a channel on learning and knowledge. And this is all of the content is always displayed with images. You can pin something to the top for everybody to always look at it. And I can look at a pathway, which is, again, a group of related smart cards or pieces of information. And I can click on any one of these pieces of information. If this is, for example, an article from a magazine, let me see which one's an article. This one's an article. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to allow me to go into the article. You notice up at the top here, I still have a tab that says Spark, and I'm actually going into the article from iScoop, and it pulled the image that's from there. What this is doing is it's keeping intellectual property safe. So you don't have to, if you want to pull an article from Harvard Business Review, for example, you don't have to pay Harvard Business Review to pull that article and to have it in the content that you're surfacing to everyone that's in there. So another piece of what we do is within our analytics, not going to show that at this point in time because it's a little bit more complex. But you'll notice up here, one of the things that we do have is notifications, so we can do notifications on the web. If I was doing this on my phone, it would just be a shrunken vertical piece that would look a lot like what you have here. But it's native iOS and it's native Android, so it works within there. We have a Guide Me tool. Now our Guide Me tool is really cool because it will help you. We started it out using it for Edcast on how to do some instructions on how to use Edcast, instructions on how to do specific things. And now we're using Guide Me tools at a number of our customers for things like Workday or SAP or other complex software products like Salesforce to teach people in-app how to use that particular app. We also have skill coins. So if you need to have, Brian mentioned the e-commerce solution. If you need people to be able to pay for courses and not have to do subscriptions in there, you can allocate our virtual currency, which we call skill coins, in there. And you have a number of different languages that are available. And we also do our AI and machine learning and our searches within those languages as well. And as you can see, we have quite a few languages available to us. So I would like to relinquish control. Randy, if you can you take that back?
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and make myself presenter again here, Becky, and I'll continue on your slide deck.
Yeah, thanks. So the partnership that we have with eThink, I think is really pretty cool and pretty amazing. What you have is a top of the line company that can associate and understands how to implement really complex learning and how to implement Moodle and Totara within your environment. And that's very exciting for us. They understand what the front door to the learning ecosystem can do when you integrate it in with your ecosystem and when you integrate it in. And the partnership of what AI can do with the LMS is going to be an important part as well. One of the things is one of the pieces that's part of our partnership, you noticed it on the home slide that we had, is that we at DevLearn, we also have a booth at DevLearn. We're going to be partnering with eThink, and both of us are partnering with Go1 as well. We're going to have our own summit at DevLearn. Now, if any of you are going to DevLearn, please, we'll send out the link in here for you to register for our summit. It's Tuesday night of DevLearn. So DevLearn is on Wednesday and Thursday for the booths and Friday for some more of the talks. And that is October 24th, 25th, and 26th. So on the 23rd, we're going to have a summit. Our friends here at eThinks are going to be here with us. We're going to have Kevin Oakes from I4CP, Jeannie Meister from the Future of Work talking. We're going to have a CLO to CLO discussion forum. And we're going to have some networking and other things where both eThink and Go1 are going to be talking. In case you didn't know it, if you hadn't planned on going to Las Vegas and DevLearn, you can come into DevLearn for free to the booths. And the booths are free. You can get a free expo pass into it. Come to our event on Tuesday night. Our folks here at eThink will have a coupon for you to register for that. And join us on Tuesday night for a great party. So this is just a wrap up of what we do. I'd love to open it up to any questions that you guys have. How does, let's see, we have one about how does EdCast compare to Degreed? Degreed is also a learning experience platform. We differ from them in several different ways. First of all, our AI is something that we really focus on, AI and ML. It's something that we do, we believe that we do much better than anyone else in this space. Every instance of EdCast is quite unique. We have a different instance for every customer. You noticed in the demo where I highlighted what you can do with EdCast in terms of customization, whereas with Degreed, everybody gets the same instance in with the same filters and everything. So that's some of the major differences. I think the other big difference in my mind is things like the partnership that we have with eThink and the way that we link in and integrate all of your different pieces. They have an integration that's pretty simple to an LMS. We have a deeper integration to all of the content partners. We have over, I think it's about 45 content partners that we integrate with today. Each one is customized to different SSOs and things like that. But we believe that one of the things that you need to be truly successful when you're implementing something that is as complex as a learning ecosystem, you need people who understand how to do that. It's not just a piece of software. To us, EdCast it's a great piece of software, but it's not just that. It is that big revolution that I said in the first one. It's a big change. It's for us in learning, it's a disruption, and you need people behind you who can actually help you with your strategy to build that platform and to build that for you, and EdCast provides that. See if I see any.
That's great, Becky. Yeah, this is Brian, and we're just a lot of questions we're answering here, sort of directly in private. But I did get a couple of questions related more towards some of the different integrations that can be done and how those would work with an LXP like EdCast and eThink, with things like authentication and ERPs and just other products in general. And the short answer to that is it really does come down to the product, but a lot of those are going to hit both products. So if we talk about authentication and we talk about Okta, for example, Okta is a technology that both EdCast could use and we would use. But then the bigger question is what, if you're using EdCast as a gatekeeper, the technical aspect of it is the authentication may take place through EdCast and EdCast only, depending on if and how you're going to access the LMS, if it's going to solely through Edcast as the front door, or if you're going to have some users coming through that, and maybe you have a different users, maybe an external audience instead of your internal audience for training channel partners, for example, which some of our clients do, then maybe you're going to use Okta authentication directly through the LMS. For the ERP, same thing applies. Depending on what you're going to, how you're going to have the users access the systems, it will dictate how those integrations are set up. Our role at eThink is to step in as the expert and lay out through this discovery process where those integrations are going to need to take.
Yeah, absolutely. That's getting that right, and having Okta is an important piece of that from a security standpoint. We feel that security-wise, it's important to segregate those. A couple of questions that I see here in the question panel. Do you have a separate partnership with all of the content partners you showed to get content from them, or is it included with Edcast? All of these, a lot of the content partners that I showed are subscription folks.
Yep. Becky, can you hear me okay? I think I might have lost audio there for a second.
And I'd say, Go One is a great example. They have, I'm not sure, what is it, like 7,000 pieces of content at this point in time. But you do need to pay for a Go One subscription in order to get their content. We can facilitate the procurement of that, and you can subscribe through us if you so choose, or you can negotiate through them.
And Becky, can you hear me okay? We lost audio for a quick second there.
Yeah, can you guys still hear me?
Yep, you're coming in loud and clear. And I just want to add some color to. Thanks so much. I see a couple people writing and saying they can hear us fine. I did want to answer some of these questions in terms of user-generated content versus canned content. And I just want to add some color to some of those questions, because there was a couple of them in here who were similar in nature. What we're seeing with our client base right now is still, I would say, a high percentage of use being user-generated content driven by custom content that needs to be created for our specific organizations. So we talk about the US Peace Corps or United Nations, some of our corporate clients, they're all very specific in what they need to do, and there is no canned content out there obviously in the LinkedIn space, for example, that was going to do exactly what they want for their specific users. It's very specific to each organization. That type of content would still live in the LMS and would be generated by our clients or through collaboration with a partner who's helping them create that custom content that's very specific to the organization. But what we're also seeing in a lot of, especially in our corporate clients, is such a powerful explosion of canned content coming through the likes of Pluralsight and Go One and all these additional options, LinkedIn, that are rapidly improving the quality of content. And it's such a low price point that when you're looking at marketing courses and getting your marketing people up to speed, there is a lot of courses that you can put in front of them that are from those types of catalogs. And what an LXP can do is essentially help your users have a front door to seeing lots of different types of content, which is where most of our clients seem to be going, with a combination of both user-driven content and the canned content. And it's really helping them be the sort of a front door, and the AI is the selection engine to help individual users figure out what type of content they should be taking based on what everyone else in the organization is taking to get where they need to go in their careers. So I think that's an interesting trend, and it does hopefully answer a couple of those questions. Becky, was there anything else you wanted to touch on with that?
Yeah, I would add to that from our standpoint, there's the user-generated content that you mentioned, the custom stuff, where all of our customers are, how do you use our particular system? What's something that we're trying to teach our users? We had part of the UN as part of our customer base as well. But there's also user-generated content from the subject matter experts. These are people who don't know how to create, or don't want to create, if you will, something that is a SCORM or AICC or something else like that type of content. So they just want to post an article from a magazine or from a website, or they want to post a blog of some kind. or do a little video. They can do a live stream video if they're a leader. Those types of things can be actually created within EdCast, and that's what we call user-generated content.
Excellent. And that's great. Yeah, I think we're seeing a pretty similar trend here on our side of the house. I did get a question here that I did want to answer regarding self-hosted Moodle here. Someone was asking about what that process looked like on migrating a client that might have their database over here in a self-hosted environment, how complicated that process is and how long it takes. We typically say it's an 8-week process. It can be a little faster. It can be a little slower depending on what the specific needs are, but 8 weeks is probably a good benchmark for that, more just to get some of the integrations and sort of the layout of the entire ecosystem that you want to have in place. It's not just the implementation of Totara or Moodle. It's more the additional pieces around it that need to be planned out and tested. And with any client running Totara or Moodle, all we really need is their database and the data folder that holds all the individual files. Those two things are the only two components that we need. Then we take the open code and we do a first pass on that, make sure everything looks good, plan out all the integrations. It, very possibly might be an integration to an LRS or to an LXP like EdCast that also has their own LRS, as well as many other different pieces of that e-learning ecosystem that we showed earlier. We set all those up for our clients. We don't simply pass it over to them and say, go to page 7 on the manual and here's what you need to do to fill out your Active Directory integration. It's quite the opposite. Because we're an open source provider of services, what we end up doing is a full management model where we do those things for our clients. And that's really where the 8 weeks comes in. So the actual migration process of the actual data and just spinning up the site is quite simple, and that is sort of a lower portion of that time. But from a technology standpoint, those are the only two pieces of information that we would need to make that migration happen. With that, I think we've answered either most of the questions privately or here in the general section here as well. Becky, do you see anything else, any other closing comments or any other questions that we might have missed that you want to answer?
Well, not at this time. I'm excited to talk to you all about what we can do as a team, because I think this is a strategy. This is a change. And it's not something where you can just turn on a piece of software and actually implement something for your company that's going to be easy for people to use. So we're excited on what we can do as a team together to bring in that revolution.
Yeah, that's what we're finding. And I think that's the interesting thing about the LXP. It's very similar to that you have. It's very similar to what we're finding with Moodle and Totara, and the configuration is where really the differences lie. And there's differences between a nonprofit like the US Peace Corps or a larger corporate client like Liberty Mutual or Guaranteed Rate for us is a very significant front end type of experience that can be very much done within the configuration of the product and not so much with customizations. And that does take some expertise. We're seeing that same thing with the LXP side. So I agree. I think that's sort of the power of the solution, but I also think that's where the market is going. People who can't just have a canned solution they turn on that does everything. They really need sort of a service-heavy model with a lightweight product like Moodle that can be configured and customized to meet their specific needs. We just got a question in from Laura that is, I think that is that, Becky, is that question that we always get in the conversation about the LMS and LXP, and I'll pass this over to you. It's a great question. It says, the question is from Laura, and it says, does or can EdCast replace a learning management system? And do you see, LXPs as a whole replacing LMSs as sort of more of a big picture question? I think that's a fascinating one for us to end on today.
Yeah, that is a great question, and it is a question that we get often from different people. I think LMS is one of the things that Josh Bersin says is that the LMS is no longer the center of the universe. And Brian did a great job of showing in that honeycomb image that sort of shifted. It means that we still need an LMS. There are still things that the LMS does that they do best of all. There are things that the LMS does that we don't do, especially for face-to-face training, for virtual training, for resources. There's a number of different things that I can list out that the LMS does that we don't do. We don't envision ourselves as replacing an LMS. what we envision ourselves doing is integrating with an LMS that has the data that it has and providing that consumer-friendly front door that integrates a whole lot of stuff, internal, external, formal, informal, lots of other pieces in bringing it together in that consumer front end that people expect to have. So I don't see us replacing. I wouldn't be spending my time, honestly, partnering in all the work that we're doing with eThink to partner with someone who delivers LMSs if we felt that was true.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. And that's the way we see the market. I think, Laura, just to add on to what Becky said, there may be some clients out there, I've personally come across them that maybe don't need an LMS because their usage is quite light and it only involves canned content. But most organizations that we're working with have a very specific onboarding process or compliance training that they need to do at a specific point in time of that life cycle of either their employee or their customer or their volunteer or whatever the user is that they're training. Those things usually still dictate an LMS, and an LXP is really just sort of an extension where paired together properly provide a much more powerful solution for most of the types of organizations that we're working with. Again, I think that the LMS is still here to stay. We don't see it necessarily disappearing, but it's different than it was 10 years ago, where that LMS is sort of the end-all, be-all of learning. That has certainly changed radically over the last several years. So I hope that helps that question be answered. I think that probably was on the minds of many people on today's session. Just want to thank Randy and Becky both for their time today. Hopefully today's session was educational for everyone and a good introduction to the LXP space if you're new to it. We'll certainly follow up with some of the individual folks that asked for a follow-up. Anybody else who needs individual follow-ups, the two emails on the screen, Becky and Randy, would be the first best two places to start. And we'll certainly send you a follow-up with both a recording of today's session as well as the discount coupons to get into the event at DevLearn in Las Vegas this year. We'd love to see you there. Please let us know if you're coming. And again, we just thank everyone on today's session for spending their time with us today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.